Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1980, and today we're going to talk about Pac-Man. Our story starts at Namco. We previously talked about Namco when we talked about their 1979 game Galaxian. For the story of Pac-Man, we will have to take a step further back. So we will start in 1974. When Namco purchased Atari Japan. Namco decided to develop their own games instead of licensing and distributing existing video games in the Japanese market. President Masaya Nakamura formed a small group of developers and had them study a couple NEC microcomputers that could be used to create the games. One person assigned to this group was Toru Iwatani, who joined the company in 1977. Iwatani was then able to create Namco's first video game. That was GB, which was released in Japan in October 1978. GB was a combination of a block breaker arcade game, something similar to Breakout, and traditional pinball gameplay. The game was not a great success, reportedly selling around 10,000 units, but it was enough to get Namco in the door. Iwatani would then help create two sequels to GB, Bombi and Cutie Q, both of which were released in 1979. For Iwatani's next project, he decided on something different. Iwatani saw the success of Space Invaders and other shooters in a different way. Iwatani felt that these games only appealed to men due to their crude graphics and violence. As a result, Iwatani felt that the arcades were seen as bad and seedy environments. Iwatani wanted to change this. So, Iwatani decided his next project would be non-violent and cheerful. He wanted to make a game that would appeal to women and to couples, so that arcades would appear to be much more family-friendly. So, he thought about something that he felt women would like to do. He settled on a concept of eating, specifically eating desserts and sweets. He took inspiration from the Japanese term paku paku, which is an onomatopoeia that mimics the sound of eating. Using paku paku, the game was initially named Pac-Man. Development began on the game in early 1979. Iwatani would get 9 other Namco employees to help create the game, including designer Shigeichi Ishimura, who had also helped with Galaxian, programmer Shigeo Funaki, and composer Toshio Kai. During the long development of the game, Namco was working on Galaxian, which used color graphics. This allowed Iwatani's new game to use bright colors, which should attract players. The character design was inspired from 2 main sources, according to Iwatani. The first is based on the Japanese character Kuchi, which means mouth. This character was simplified and elongated to create the iconic design. The other inspiration was from the shape of a pizza, with a missing slice, supposedly inspired by an office lunch. The level design was chosen to be a maze. There is a belief that this was inspired by Sega's 1979 game Head On, which was popular in Japan, but this has not been confirmed by Toru Iwatani. Inside the maze, fruit bonuses would spawn. These were inspired by slot machines, which would often use cherries. The maze would be populated with ghosts. Ghosts had been used in Cutie Q before. Iwatani also drew inspiration from Casper the Friendly Ghost and the manga Obake no Kyutaro. Because ghosts were the villains in animation, Iwatani felt that they would suit the more family-friendly game. President Masaya Nakamura requested that the ghosts all be red. However, Iwatani made them all different colors. The ghosts were given different mechanics, which were seen as personalities for the different ghosts. This prevented the game from becoming too boring or too difficult. There are 4 ghosts in the game. Their original Japanese names, translated into English, were Chaser, a red ghost that always chases the player, Ambusher, a pink ghost that tries to get ahead of the player, Fickle, a bright blue ghost that uses a complicated strategy, and Stupid, an orange ghost that alternates between chasing the player and running away from the player. When the game was released in North America, those names were changed to Shadow, Speedy, Bashful, and Pokey. But they were given nicknames, which is how most people remember the ghosts. Those nicknames were Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, though these nicknames no longer portrayed the character's personality at all. To allow the player to fight back against the ghosts, Toru Iwatani took inspiration from Popeye the Sailor. Popeye would eat spinach to gain temporary superhuman strength to defeat his enemies. There is also a Japanese children's story about a creature that protects children from monsters by devouring them that could have inspired this mechanic. So, the player finds large pellets, known as power pellets, that give the player the temporary ability to devour the ghosts. The sounds for the game were designed by Toshio Kai, who is said to have created the effects from how Toru Iwatani noisily ate fruit and made gurgling noises while describing what he wanted. The game took a total of 1 year and 5 months to complete. That is the longest development of any video game we have mentioned, and maybe the longest development for any commercial video game to that point. Along the way, the game's name was changed from the original Pac-Man to its new name, Puckman, named after the character's hockey puck shape. It was only for the international release that the name was changed to Pac-Man. Pac-Man is a maze chase game. The player controls Pac-Man, whose goal is to eat all the dots or pellets on the screen. Pac-Man is chased by the 4 ghosts, who will kill Pac-Man if they come in contact with him. At the 4 corners are larger dots, known as energizers or power pellets. If Pac-Man eats one of these, the ghosts will turn blue and run away from Pac-Man. During this time, Pac-Man can eat the ghosts for points. After a period of time, the ghosts will turn back to normal and be able to kill Pac-Man. Eating a certain number of dots on the screen will spawn a bonus item, typically a fruit, which can be eaten for more points. The player can also go through the 2 open sides of the maze, warping to the other side of the screen. Once all the dots on the screen have been eaten, the player moves on to the next levels. Each level increases the difficulty. The ghosts become faster, and the power pellets give less time to eat the ghosts. The player, if they can survive, can then continue screen after screen until the 256th level. This level causes a glitch which the player cannot overcome. This has become known as a kill screen. Sometimes, between levels, a small interlude between Pac-Man and Blinky will play, designed to give the player a small break in the action. Location testing for Puckman, as it was still known in Japan, started on May 22, 1980 in Tokyo. This was followed by a private showing in June and a nationwide release in July. Puckman originally only saw moderate success in Japan, but it was enough to warrant an international release. Namco decided to change the names of the ghosts, but also the name of the game itself. Worried that vandals would change the P in Puckman to an F, President Masaya Nakamura decided to change the name to Pac-Man, which was closer to the original working title of Pac-Man. With the background of Pac-Man now told, it's time to play the game for ourselves. And here we are in the game. This is Pac-Man. As you can see, they start by telling you the names of all of the ghosts and their nicknames, trying to explain a bit of the mechanics and how the points work and things like that, I will be the first to say that although I have played Pac-Man before, I am not particularly good at it. I will do what I can primarily just to clear levels. I'm not particularly interested in going for a high score or anything like that. I want to clear the board and make it to the next level. That is my ultimate goal when I go through this. So with that said, let's drop a few credits in. Like I said, I'm not particularly good, so we're going to put a few in here. We can try to get a bonus Pac-Man, but we'll see. A bit of a stutter there, but we're good. All right, so we play as Pac-Man, who has no eyes or anything, but that's okay. He doesn't need to see to know that there are tasty dots in front of him. Okay, we're gonna go this way. Okay, I got the cherry. I don't normally get that, so I am happy. All right, there's way too many near me. I just like using these to clear the area more than anything else. That did not last nearly as long as I wanted. All right, I barely got that in time. All right, now we're at the top of the level here. Just trying to get all the dots. That's my main goal. Once again, not trying to get a high score, not trying to get all the cherries or anything like that. All right, we just have that corner to go. Let's try to go this way. Nope. All right, I'm being chased there. Okay. You gotta be a little tricky with these guys. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to get all the ghosts either. Once again, my goal is to make it through. And we have board number 2. It looks very similar to board number 1, but there's a couple changes here and there. I like trying to save the power pellets until, I kind of need them. You might notice that everything's kind of going a little bit faster. How did I miss all of them? Thought there was enough time left. Alright, so we die. That was the first death. That's going to happen a few times. Let's try to head out up here. Alright, I got one this time. I got 2 this time. There you go. Things are looking better for me here. Which way are you going? Apparently, you can get, much better. Oh, they're faster than me now. I believe on the first level, they're the same speed as you, but starting on level number 2, they are faster than you, which is an issue. All right. Except on those little warps there. On the warps, they slow down, you do not. Okay. Level 2 down. Get a little bit of a sense of the cutscenes of the game. Just a little break from the action, enough to give you a little breather. Kind of funny. I'll give it that. And I'm going to need to grab that. And I'm not going to go for that. Probably should have. Oh, I'm screwed. There was nowhere for me to go there. I put myself into a corner, couldn't get out of it. Yeah, I like clearing the bottom first. I really shouldn't. I should clear the top earlier. Because the top is harder for me to get to after I die. Try to... There was room for me to go, but I didn't realize it until too late. Alright, so I got 95-40. That's not bad. We'll try again. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using all my quarters here, but we will play it a few more times. I do have to crack up. There's so many things about this game that have been overanalyzed over the years. One of the things is that apparently you eat the ghosts, but they instantly respawn, so ghosts provide no nutrition whatsoever. That is the implication. I did not get that one. Right, let's head back up here. Try to learn my lesson. But once again, we're on level 1, so I didn't have to learn my lesson here. Alright, I can get all 3 of them. I can't get the 4th. I don't know how you get the quote-unquote best score in... She turned around on me. There are better ways to kind of try to figure out how to play this game. A lot of people want to line up all 4 ghosts before they ever eat the big pellets. I can't really figure out how to do that. So, I don't. And we'll come back around. I don't try to figure out how to do that. I'm trying to keep track of the colors, which is something that I did not know when I played the game before, right? That these ghosts had personalities, that red always chases you, that blue here uses some sort of complicated strategy that was not fully explained, but that's okay. That pink tries to get ahead of you. Those kinds of things, I had no idea. Because I just knew them as Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde. You know, what do you mean that they have strategies to them? They're ghosts, but you did need to program them with... Tried to get into there again. Is that it? No, I got one more. Alright, we'll just kind of grab this and use that to get up top. That there's strategy that you can use. And I may have screwed myself. Nope. Alright, we found a clear path. Yeah, people can be really good at this game. Just insanely good at this game. In a way that I really have not dedicated my time to figuring out. Once again, it's all about the strategy that, you know, I really have not played with the knowledge of until now. I did not know that these characters had these kinds of movements until, you know, a few years ago, and then just kind of never got around to playing the game. So now that I have gotten around to playing the game, it changes my strategy a bit, and I think that I'm doing better now than I have before. But with that said... Oh, get me out of there. I think when you eat dots, you also go a little bit slower. With that said, it's not going to change my strategy a ton. Alright, I got a free life. I think that's what that was. Yeah, the warps, they struggle following you through warps. And I should be able to complete the second screen now. Without too much of an issue. Wait, is this the third screen? This is the third screen. Now I'm on number 4. You can tell from the bottom left there, or the bottom right, what screen you're on, which is nice. Once again, something that was kind of adopted from... I swore I hit the button. Something that was adopted from, a game that we had mentioned previously in Space Invaders 2, but also shown off in Galaxian. The idea of... God, there's like no... They are making this very difficult for me. There's no room for error on this one. Okay, I think we got one more in me. It lasted longer than I thought I was going to. But you can see the difficulty spike in how long the power pellets, the energizers give you. I call them power pellets for reasons that we'll probably get into later. But it's not necessarily said in this original version of the game, whether these are energizers or power pellets. They call them different things, but I go by power pellets due to something that came out after the initial release, and we'll talk about that later. For now, I don't know where to go. No, I'm going to go around this way. See, this is like as bunched up as I have gotten these ghosts. And it's still really difficult for me to get too many. There was not too many chances there. Am I still on the first level? It's not a good sign when I can't make it past the first level. We'll just get all the dots. It does not matter. Let's move on to screen number 2. And we'll see what I can do here. Once again, I am not the best at the game. Do not claim to be. Haven't really put the time dedication into getting really good at it. A lot of these games, especially these arcade games, they're built around you playing the game so much that you get kind of muscle memory as to how things work. But the fact that the difference on these power pellets or energizers is so different that even by level 4, like as soon as I bite the thing, they're already flashing, is crazy to me. So I don't know how people can get to level 256 just to see the kill screen. You know, I am happy making it to this cutscene here, which I did not see very often as a kid. I didn't even make it this far. Once again, this is a game about getting your quarters. So the longer that you play on a single quarter is kind of time lost for the owner of the machine. I didn't think I could get to the power pellet in time. Yeah, I don't necessarily use the strategy of trying to get all these guys like lined up or anything like that. I don't know how to manipulate the characters. So sure, I know what their strategies are, but that doesn't mean I can do anything about it. That's kind of my thought on that. There was nowhere. That was tough. I almost had enough for another life. But that is Pac-Man. As you can see, it's fun. It's something that you really can get into because the first level is not too difficult, but the difficulty does get higher as you go. And it goes pretty quickly to the point that level 4 seems almost impossible to me. But I'm sure there are a ton of people out there that can beat it, can make it as far as the game will allow, which is 256. So that's the game. That's Pac-Man. I have a feeling you've seen it before. It's very, very popular. We'll talk about that in a bit. With the game now played, it's time to talk about how the game holds up today. Overall, the game is still fun. It is still something that is worth dropping a couple quarters in and seeing what you can do. I don't necessarily think that it's worth the time investment that a lot of people have put into the game, but it is something that I wish I was better at, that makes me want to go through and do more, be better, make it further, all that kind of stuff. That's stuff that does compel me to want to play the game again, and that's something that arcade games need to have in order to be successful. And this game was successful, so I'm not alone in that sentiment. With that said, it still does come across as basic. I would say that it does play a little slow, but we'll get into reasons why I think that later. But from a modern perspective, I think that there are still players out there that would get a lot of enjoyment out of Pac-Man. There are other versions of the game that possibly are better, that have tweaks here and there, but there's a reason that the original still holds up. And I think it has a lot to do with the AI of the ghosts, the artificial intelligence, the personalities that I called them earlier. Those ghosts with their different personalities keeps the game interesting. When I mentioned that they had different personalities in order to keep the difficulty level right. What I meant was that they would have 4 characters that would just chase you all the time. That would keep it boring. If they surrounded you all at once, that would also be boring and incredibly difficult. So the fact that there are 4 ghosts and that they have different personalities and do different things to try to trap you is something that keeps the game interesting and keeps you guessing. Once you have figured out their strategies enough to be able to kind of manipulate them to get them to do what you want, then the game gets a lot easier for you. But it takes a long time to get to that point. So overall, I think that the game is still good. And if you are playing classic arcade games, Pac-Man cannot be skipped. It has to be included. Even if you don't include any of the other games that we've talked about to this point, I think Pac-Man is the go-to old arcade game. And there's a reason for that. And it's because it does hold up well. Is it something that you're going to play for hours? I would say no. Unless you are dedicated to a cause that I can't really identify. Maybe trying to get a certain score, or trying to get to a certain level, or trying to beat your friend, or something like that. But if it's just you by yourself, I don't necessarily see the compulsion to keep on going for hours and hours, but it's fun for a good amount of time. In terms of the graphics, I feel like the graphics actually hold up pretty well because of the bright colors. I wish that Pac-Man was more detailed. Maybe that's just me. He's just, kind of a circle with a hole in it. Sometimes just plain a circle. When it comes to the sound is iconic, and it's hard to say exactly why. Maybe it's because the game is popular and the game is good that the sound does hold up as well as it does, because there's not much to the sound, but there is enough there to get you interested and to keep you interested. The gameplay, of course, is the shining point of Pac-Man. The fact that it's not anything similar to what we have seen before, that it kind of goes its own way, is something that holds up well. So overall, the game, I think, holds up pretty well. I think it is something that is worth going back to. And that's my modern take on the game. At the time, as I said, Pac-Man was not initially seen as a hit in Japan. Namco's other game, Galaxian, outsold Pac-Man for some time. However, Pac-Man was popular with women, as it had intended to be. Midway Games was given the licensing and distribution rights in North America for Pac-Man in November 1980 and started releasing the game in December 1980. It was once the game was released in North America that sales truly took off. Within 1 year, more than 100,000 units were sold, which grossed over $1 billion in quarters, over $2.8 billion in 2020. More money than even Star Wars had earned. Pac-Man overtook Asteroids to become the best-selling arcade game in the United States. By 1982, over 400,000 units had sold, receiving an estimated 7 billion coins across an estimated 30 million active players. Over time, Pac-Man has become the best-selling arcade game of all time, even now in 2020, earning an estimated $2.5 billion in revenue, beating even Space Invaders. Although contemporary reviews are hard to find, even a couple years later, the reviews for the game were positive. Over the years, Pac-Man's reviews have been very positive. Pac-Man is often cited as one of the best and most influential arcade games of all time. Pac-Man himself is seen as the first video game mascot, and the game is seen as the first with power-ups. The individual personalities of the ghosts, their artificial intelligence, would also be hugely influential. It is sometimes cited as the first game with cutscenes, although Space Invaders 2 did have them as well. Pac-Man, with a finite number of playable levels, has what is known as a perfect score that can be reached. This is done by eating every dot, power pellet, fruit, and ghost without ever losing a man. That score is 3,333,360. It was first publicly completed by Billy Mitchell on July 3rd, 1999. Since then, only a handful of players have ever replicated the perfect score. However, there is a time-based world record for completing the perfect score in Pac-Man. That is currently held by David Race, who got the perfect score in 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 49 seconds. The game inspired clones, knockoffs, ports, merchandise, and even a television series and hit song. Even the things that followed Pac-Man would prove so influential on the video game industry that we will have to talk about those things individually as they are released. A game of this success will not go away quietly. Looking ahead, this will be the last time we mention Toshio Kai. Pac-Man was the only game he composed. We will also not hear from Shigeo Funaki again, even though Shigeo would continue to work for Namco. As for Shigeichi Ishimura, we will hear his name again, if only briefly. For the main designer, Toru Iwatani, we will continue to follow his career closely as he continued his work at Namco. As for Namco and Midway Games, the two companies would continue to thrive in the industry, and we will hear from them again in the future. That will do it for the story of Pac-Man for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video, where we'll go back to shooting things.